Good evening, everyone. Good evening, County Council members and members of the public that have taken time to come and join us this evening. We appreciate your attendance and the feedback that we'll be able to gather for this public meeting. So I would like to call to order this public meeting regarding Beaver and Coyote compensation to order. This meeting is being held here in the council chambers, but it's also being live streamed for the benefit of those who are unable to attend this evening. And the live stream is available on the county's website. Notice for today's meeting was given in accordance with the county's procedural bylaw. And for any questions following today's meeting, please contact trapping@gray.ca, or if you prefer by phone, 548-877-0919 for assistance. Comments are still being accepted after today's meeting, and staff would encourage you to get any comments in by May 30th of this year. If you want to be notified of any future information on the Beaver and Coyote compensation, including any future decisions made by council on the bylaw, please send an email to trapping@gray.ca requesting to be added to our county's notification list. So at this point in time, I would like to look to Madam Clerk to ask her to conduct our roll call for our county council members this evening.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. In attendance today, we have Councillors Kentner, Patterson, Hutchinson, Dickert, Nielsen, Eccles, McQueen, Dobreen, Keaveney, Councillors McKay, Mackey, Pringle, and Gregg, and yourself, Warden Matrosovs.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this point in time, we'd like to begin with the land acknowledgement. Let us begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires, known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further, we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. To our south lies the traditional territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. At this point in time, let me ask any county council members if there are any declarations of interest regarding tonight's agenda. Seeing and hearing none, we will move forward. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction about what we're going to do tonight. So please be advised that for the purpose of this public meeting is to obtain input from the public on the Beaver and Coyote compensation. Any material submitted or shared will become part of today's public record. First, we will hear a presentation from staff. Following the presentation, members of the public who wish to speak may do so from the lectern. All comments and input will be recorded and considered. If your views have been expressed already by somebody else who has shared something before you, you can simply note that you agree with the previous comments, but it's also your opportunity to come to the lectern and highlight anything new or something else that has not yet been mentioned. Following public comments, staff may respond to questions of clarification from members of the public or county council. Staff and council members are here to receive comments from the public and will not debate the matter. There may be matters from this evening's meeting that staff will need to follow up on and research further. And as such, staff may not have all the answers to the questions tonight, but they will take down the questions and find those answers later on. Please be advised that no decision is being considered as a part of today's agenda. The meeting is strictly intended to receive comments and questions from members of the public. The county's planning staff will then prepare a report for consideration at a future meeting of the Committee of the Whole that will then consider the submissions regarding this matter. If you would like to be notified of future information on the Beaver and Coyote compensation, including any future decisions on the bylaw, please send an email to trapping@gray.ca requesting that your email be added to the county's notification list. So with that, we will begin with the staff presentation. I'll now invite Ms. Johnson to come forward and give her presentation. After that, I'll look to members of council for any questions of clarification they may have, and then we'll move to the main portion of this evening, asking for public comments. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. Is that the phone? Sorry, could you make that the same? I have, my screen is different than that screen. Is this, I still have control up here? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Johnson. Thank you, Warden. I apologize to everybody out here that I got my back to you, but somebody has to have to have my back to somebody, unfortunately. Anyways, tonight I wanted to have wanted to talk about our wildlife management bylaws and the updates that are being proposed. So just a brief overview. The county has had nuisance beaver and coyote wolf bylaws in place for over 35 years. Council has directed staff to review both of the bylaws and concerns that have been raised with the programs. Things that we will be investigating in this review include compensation rates, the actual need for the programs and bylaws, as well as administrative items, and anything else that may come up as part of the consultation process. The updated bylaws have not yet been drafted for consideration by council. That will be done after we gather information. And just to reiterate what the warden has already said, the purpose of tonight's meeting is just to hear input, and there is no decision that is being made at the meeting. So specifically, I want to start with talking about the beaver bylaw. It was first introduced in the county in 1983. It helps to control, it was designed to help control beaver populations and manage their dam building activities. And while we recognize that beavers play a helpful role in ecosystems by creating wetlands, they can also cause some significant problems. And those problems can range from flooding of farm fields, roads, and other areas to damage to property, roads, bridges, culverts, blocking of streams and waterways, and damage to forest ecosystems through flooding and tree removal. Current compensation for the bylaw program is $25 per beaver, and only licensed trappers are eligible to make a claim under the bylaw. The trappers must be a resident of Grey County in order to qualify. And basically the process is a form is filled out and signed by a landowner and a trapper. And then the trapper will take the form and the tail of any beaver caught to the local municipality. And the staff there will verify and sign that form. And then that form is either brought or sent to Grey County for sign off and reimbursement. Much similar, the Coyote and Wolf program, it was first introduced in 1990. And it was a program that provides financial compensation to trappers and hunters for removing coyotes and wolves that have attacked and or killed livestock. This bylaw does not compensate livestock owners for the loss of their animals. There is a separate program that is done through the province for that. The current compensation is $50 per coyote or wolf. And again, only a licensed trapper or hunter is eligible, and they also have to be a resident of Grey County. The difference with this program is that claims are only eligible when there has been an attack on livestock, and a livestock evaluator must confirm the kill. So again, there is a form, and it is filled out and signed by the livestock evaluator, the landowner, and the trapper hunter. And then the trapper hunter takes that form and the ears of the coyote to the local municipal office for verification and signature. And then again, that form is then brought or sent to Grey County for final sign off and reimbursement. So as preliminary research that was done for this review, staff investigated how other counties and municipalities were approaching these matters. With regards to beavers, we reached out to 12 different municipalities and counties, and of those 12, only Grey and Bruce still have a beaver program in place. With regards to wolves and coyotes, out of those same 12 municipalities and counties, only 4 had coyote programs in place. There was a bit of difference in compensation rate. Bruce County and Huron County were $100 per coyote, and Dufferin and Grey were both $50. So moving on, we have obviously had a little bit of preliminary consultation. We did have a public open house a couple weeks ago in Markdale, and we have just started to hear comments as we have started this process. So we have been hearing things, and we just kind of wanted to highlight some of those points that we have been hearing. First and foremost, one of the biggest things that we've heard across the board is that the bounties are too low. We've also heard that the process is too cumbersome, specifically for coyote claims. We have also heard that there shouldn't be a restriction on where you live in order to qualify because the number of trappers is reduced substantially over the years. We've also heard that the program should be discontinued. And then on the completely opposite side, we've heard that these programs are extremely necessary. We've also heard that there are other non-lethal ways to manage nuisance animals. So we're hearing lots and lots, and we are looking forward to hearing what everyone has to share tonight. So just to kind of highlight again what the warden had already gone over, we are hoping to have comments in by the end of this month, May 30th. And then after that consultation, we hope to take those comments and that information, do some research and draft those bylaws, hopefully this summer. After those bylaws are drafted, we are hoping to prepare a staff report with a recommendation for county council's consideration, hopefully in the fall. And then should county council opt to pass those new bylaws, they would come into play or come into effect after that. So my final slide is just some additional information. Obviously, if you wish to speak tonight, we want to hear from you, but we also wanted to recognize that not everybody is comfortable doing that. So we have other options to provide comments. So as the warden has mentioned, there is an email address you can email to trapping@gray.ca, or you can send it to me, which is sarah.johnson@gray.ca. There is also an online form. You can send us a letter. You can drop off your comments in person. Tonight, there's some forms at the back if you wanted to fill out, or if you wanted to take one with you and bring it back or mail it back to us. And yeah, we just really want to make sure that we have covered any way for those that wish to provide us with comments. But that is all I had prepared for today.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. So what we'll do is, first of all, I'll just put a question out to county council members who are either attending virtually or here in the chamber if they have any questions for clarification first before we open it to the for public comments. We'll start with Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Madam Warden. Sarah, thanks very much for the information so far. In regards to the coyotes and the verification and the kill, is that a ministry requirement or a county requirement? Because, in my mind, coyotes, if left to their own devices, are going to kill livestock. So, we have heard how cumbersome the current process is, and you highlighted that. So I'm just wondering if that tie-in is a requirement from M&R or whether we have some say in that. Thanks.
So through you, Warden. The original bylaw was drafted as part of an M&R program, and the M&R withdrew from the process. I think it was around 2012. But our bylaw still does state that that is a requirement as part of the process. But so it was, I guess it's kind of both. It was an M&R requirement because of how the bylaw was established, and then it remained in the existing bylaw because we haven't updated it since then.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to a question online from Councillor Dobreen.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Warden Matrasov. Thank you, Sarah. A question, because I didn't quite get the full slide where you spoke about the coyote. Did I understand that the bounty is only eligible if it is the result of a livestock kill, but the livestock is reimbursed by the municipality? I'm speaking specifically of if someone kills or traps a coyote, not the result of a livestock kill, they're not eligible for a bounty? That's my first question.
For you, Warden, that is correct. You have to have a confirmed livestock kill in order to qualify for the bounty, and that is done by a livestock evaluator.
I see. But you don't know that it was the coyote that actually committed the the kill. Okay. I find that a little bit odd, but okay. And the other question is, if trappers are hired by the local municipality or the county to deal with nuisance beavers causing, culvert and dams that are affecting the roadways, are the trappers hired and paid for by the municipalities eligible to claim the bounty as well?
For you, Warden, they currently are, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And next we'll go to online. We'll go to Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And one question for clarity on, yeah, definitely if there is a coyote livestock kill, yes, the evaluator would come out and there'd be a form. The question I have is, does that have to be an annual permission, or is it if there has been a livestock kill and a proper paperwork filled out, does that continue on for multiple years? Obviously, if that farm and that farmer has had verification and filled out the proper form, does that carry on year after year, or does that have to be verified every year?
Through you, Warden, it's per incident. So you would have that form it actually says that there was a kill there. You have those signatures on it from the livestock evaluator, and then the hunter trapper would do the trapping, and they would catch as many animals as they do, and then they would present that, and then that form, then that qualification would be complete.
Well, I guess my point is, those coyotes, they continue to come back year after year. So that's what I'm saying is, it may not end if they're not all captured, or there's more that moves in. If it's per incident, sometimes you may have more than one incident. But my point is there a time frame that form for that bounty is good for? So is it the whole year? It may take a long time. You may never get them all. That's my point.
Through you, Warden, the former M&R requirement was within, I think it was 2 weeks of the confirmation of the kill. You had a certain radius, and you had up to 10 that you could trap. And then that, with regards or with that relation to that one specific livestock kill, then it was complete. If there is a separate one, then absolutely you'd go through the process again. Although I understand what you're saying, it is a little bit of a flawed system. Since the M&R withdrew from the process, I think we've been a little bit more lenient with our timelines, but still that one livestock kill and that form, once that form has been submitted related to that kill, then until another incident occurs, you would not qualify.
Okay, so that's something maybe that needs to be tweaked out a little bit, and also communicated, because that may be something that maybe is the cumbersome part as well. The other comment I'd like to make through Madam Warden is something that was raised to me was if there is a trapper hunter that has permission to go after those predators, but the one comment came back to me that if they're using working dogs, it also has to go back to the municipal I'm trying to think of the municipal bylaw that regards to dogs at large, and if they get captured, are they working dogs? I think at Grey Highlands, I think we do have that you have to buy a permit if they are, or there's an exemption if they're working dogs. But the comment that came back to me was, if we go out and the dogs get astray, they get picked up by the dog pound, it's $250 to get your dog back. It defeats the whole purpose. And it was just a communication that was provided. I'm not looking for really, but it was just a communication that was provided to me as well. So I think part of that maybe would be, as each municipality would need to make sure if there's provisions in your dog bylaw that would maybe allow some flexibility on that, because that was something that was brought to my attention as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And I see a question here in the chamber from Councillor McKay.
Yes, if you verify a kill, it sounds like you're saying that one bad coyote, but I think a kill, there's a lot of times it's a pack. So that one kill, if the hunters went out and killed 6, 8, 10, are they considered the whole 10 are bad coyotes and they did that kill? Like, how do you distinguish between one and a whole pack?
Through you, Warden. I mean, obviously, there's no way to determine if those coyotes were the ones responsible for the kill, but I think what we have seen is that however many they catch on that hunt related to that one livestock kill. So up to most of the time, it's not more than 10, but we have seen more than 10 on one form that then they would all qualify for that bounty as long as they were all claimed on that form related to that kill.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing any further questions online or here in the chamber. Excellent. So, Ms. Johnson, if you just want to take a seat, but stay close by. At the end, staff will take some notes now as the public comments come forward. So if you have a question, then what we'll do is we're going to take all of the public comments when everybody has had an opportunity to speak. Then staff can address a number of the questions that have come up in the comments. And as we mentioned, some of them may require more research and that may be the response at this point in time. But as we mentioned, no decisions are being made tonight. This is an opportunity for us to hear what members of the public think about this, about the idea of this revision, and this will help inform the staff report that then comes to council to inform us on the decision that we will have to make later in the year. So with that, I'd like to open the lectern to anyone that would like to come forward to speak. We would just ask that at the beginning you identify your name just so that the clerk can keep that in her public record. So would somebody like to come to the lectern? There we go. We've got somebody. Come on up, begin with your name, and then CAO Schertzer there will assist you with turning on that microphone.
There you go. Good to go? Good. My name's Fred Manning. I'm a resident of the Ormond Township. I'm a trapper, a nuisance trapper, and I'm also the secretary of the Grey Bridge Trappers Council. I'll only speak to the beaver issues because that's kind of what I do. I just don't worry about coyotes too much. I think the first thing I'd like to maybe is clarify a couple of points that were brought up there. One of the things was, is there another way to deal with nuisance beaver? And really there isn't anything, a better way to deal with them than to basically eliminate them. And trappers are really efficient at doing that. And it's a cost-effective way of doing that. There is some live traps you can get, but they're incredibly expensive. They're not very effective. And I don't even know if anybody has them around here. So that's one thing. There are other means of dealing with nuisance beaver too. I also do work with Ducks Unlimited, and we do a lot of beaver bafflers in dams. So if the beaver aren't exactly, impacting infrastructure, if they're not flooding roads or they're not flooding out bush, sometimes what happens is we can actually install bafflers. And what it basically is a pipe that goes through the dam out into the pond. And then there's a standpipe downstream. You can maintain water levels. And it's a very effective way of dealing with water issues with beaver, but it doesn't help you with their cutting trees and that sort of thing. So there are other ways of doing it as well. One of the other questions there was opening it up to non-residents. I would think that would open the door to other beaver being brought in and claiming on the bounty, especially if the bounty went up, which I'm in favor for. I'd like to see the bounty go to $50 to be the same as Bruce County. $50 is fair. It doesn't have to be 100, I don't think, but $50 is fair. And it compensates trappers for the time, because when it gets down to it, like, landowners are quick to call about trapping beaver, but then you say, well, it's going to cost you this much. And then they back up because, oh my God, I can't do that. Although they'll pay a plumber to come in and fix their well or something like that. So I take it as like a profession. So, but anyway, so it's just a different way for us to be compensated. And I think it's fair. What other things there? One thing I have noticed over the years of doing nuisance trapping is when I take tails into municipalities, Meaford's the only one that actually takes the tails from me. So there may be a spot there, and if your municipality doesn't claim those tails and take them from the trapper, there's a temptation there to kind of cheat the system. You know what I mean? So maybe counselors, like municipal counselors, could tell their staff, like when nuisance beaver tails come in, take them, call the roads guys and tell them to get rid of them. Just, you know, so it keeps everybody fair. Other than that, that's about all I got to say. I would push for getting the bounty up to $50 just because our costs have increased now. You know, it's fuel costs, just wear and tear on your vehicles, traps now, like conibear traps like I use, like they're $40 to $50 a piece now. So it gets expensive. Especially for new people that want to, like young trappers that want to come in and get involved in this. You know, it's just a different way to compensate them. And beaver prices are crap, to tell you honest truth. Like they're not very good at all. Last year there was an uptick in beaver prices. And that's because of the hatter market. So, and what it is when beaver pelts are sheared, the felt is used in like cowboy hats, like high grade cowboy hats. And there was a real run in cowboy hats when like Yellowstone come on TV. There was a huge run in cowboy hats, and that drove the market up. And so then last year when we were selling beaver pelts, you know, like for even poor quality beaver, you know, we're getting $20, $30, $40 for, you know, poor quality beavers. But anyway, that market's flooded now. So then it's down to, you know, 20, 25 for decent beaver. So if beaver were worth $100 a piece, like consistently, I would say, you know what, why does the county have to pay a bounty, really? But they're not. So there has to be some incentive for us to trap beaver. And the thing is, when you don't trap beaver, then you as county councilors and municipal councilors realize, you know, your road crews are out all the time clearing culverts and stuff like that. And how much does that cost you? I think the budget for this was $25,000 or something. So like, you know, 2 or 3 times out with your crews out unplugging culverts, you're probably going to burn it through $5,000 or $6,000 pretty fast. So it's just another thing to consider. So anyway, that's all I have to say. So I hope you take that to heart.
Thank you so much for your comments. I saw somebody else that was getting ready to come on up. And just for the record, if you could just start with your name, thank you.
Thanks, Randy. I'm Howard Gregg, and I'm here to talk about coyotes. Thank you, Madam Warden and Council, for the chance. The cost of controlling coyotes is minimal compared to the actual cost of not controlling them. I want to speak a bit about the values of livestock that people are losing right now. My wife and I personally have a small sheep farm and have experienced coyotes coming right into a security yard, taking a lamb, and all there was left was some intestine, and Yo was attacked and got by the throat, but somehow got away. So there's a emotional impact too to farmers when these types of things happen. I'll speak. I'm an auctioneer and I manage the sales barn for small animals at the Coyote livestock market. So I work across the road where we sell the goats and sheep and the cows and the pigs. So I have the opportunity to talk to farmers regularly, basically every Tuesday, about how things are going and what's impacting them. And I talk to farmers that are selling the last of their sheep because the emotional impact of coyotes coming in, they go out in the field in the morning in a secure field. One individual had 3 guard dogs and he had to sell off the last of his sheep because of the emotional impact. He said, I couldn't do it anymore, going out and finding dead lambs, dead sheep, even though he had 3 guard dogs there. That's one example, but there's other examples where people just give up. Agriculture is extremely important to Grey County, Grey and Bruce County for that matter, and we need to support it. And this is one of the small programs that's more supported. Financially, I'm aware of 2 calves that have been killed in the last 2 weeks by coyotes. And yes, hopefully there's compensation, but the compensation won't cover the financial impact. That cow is likely going to market now because people can't afford to feed her for a year because she's not going to raise a calf. So you're going to sell the cow for $1,500 to $1,800. You're going to replace that cow for $4,500. So the impact isn't just the loss of the calf, it's the loss of the cow and having to replace her. So it's a $3,000 impact. And the same with the sheep. The impact on the sheep is far more than just the loss of the lambs or the ewes. The program has always been a bit too complicated. It would be nice if it would be simplified. M&R used to want the coyote to have to plead guilty before he could shoot the damn thing. Fortunately, it has improved a bit since then. But there's too many coyotes out there. I think everybody is aware of that. They're just everywhere, cities and everywhere. The way to control them, and there's pockets where there's experienced hunters go out every winter and eliminate 50, 75, maybe 100 in a good year. And I think if you did the research on that, you'd find there's very few claims in those areas where they're controlling the coyote population. You'll never eliminate it. Some people say, oh, you're going to shoot all the coyotes. It's impossible. They'll never eliminate coyotes. They'll always be out there and be a problem. The coyotes at this point have eliminated the groundhogs. Who sees any groundhogs around when you drive around anymore? They're gone. The coyotes have got them. Rabbits. When's the last time you saw a jackrabbit? I haven't seen one for years. Coyotes got the jackrabbits. They're still out there killing everything they can get. That's what coyotes do. They survive by killing other animals, defenseless animals. So they have to be controlled somehow. And a little bit of compensation goes a long way to help the agriculture community and the impact on the agriculture community. So to increase it to $100, I think would be a step in the right direction. To simplify the whole process would be a step in the right direction. And a lot of our hunters, unfortunately, are getting older. We're going to need some younger hunters to step up and try to control this problem because it's a growing problem everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is there somebody else that would like to come forward to make a comment or ask questions? Okay, and there we go. We have another. And if you could please begin with your name, thank you.
Hi, my name is Rose. I'm from Dundalk. 100% the rates for coyotes and beaver need to be raised. You know, when you look at the fur barn prices, the North Bay fur auction, on average in 2024, a beaver sold for about $55. I don't remember what it was for coyote, but it was quite high. The fur market isn't the greatest right now, but like these rates should not be set to be lower than what the average in the fur barn is. You know, I think it would be good if we had a base level of this is what we won't pay under there just for the cost of operation. But like they shouldn't be set so that the fur barn will pay more than what the nuisance cost or the bounty will cost, because pelts in the summer aren't worth much at all. But that's when you'll have a lot of those, you know, attacks from the coyotes, and, you know, that's when the beaver is active. And so you'll end up with this situation where people aren't taking nuisance calls because they can make more if they just wait till the winter. And so the problem won't be dealt with. You know, the cost of operation is quite high. You know, I've just gotten my trapping license, and so this winter coming will be my first season. But like looking at a Conibear 330, which is typical for, you know, beaver, it's one of the more humane traps. It's $50 plus tax. And then for the leg hold traps for coyotes, I saw it was about $80 plus tax for one of those traps. You know, like, and when you're setting to catch half a pack even, you need at least 5 traps. You know, when you're trapping a pond, you know, you're going to need at least 5 traps again, just looking at the size of the den. So the cost to start and the cost of operation is quite high. You know, we also live in a very large area. And so, you know, if I have to drive 40 kilometers one way to get to a nuisance call, you know, that's an 80-kilometer round trip. That's probably about half of the bounty already is just going into gas. I also think that, you know, I think it's worth saying that when we talk about animals like coyotes, you know, they are nuisances to us, but they're not bad creatures, but they do need to be managed. Everything needs to be managed. You know, when you look at the prey animals and how they, you know, destroy forests when there's too many of them. You look at the beaver, they destroy forests and habitat when there's too many of them. You look at coyotes and they come after livestock when the other animals have died of disease and starvation because there's not enough food and they're overcrowded in these areas. And then the coyotes go looking for more food. So I think this also should open up a discussion for talking about how to regenerate the ecosystem so that it can support more animals in general. Because although the animal population will still need to be managed, you know, which is something that was happening, you know, since there were, you know, it was just native people here. It's a thing that has not been done for a while. And so we find these animals are nuisances because the environment isn't managed. The carrying capacity of the land is greatly reduced. These animals don't have the space or the food necessary to exist. And then they come to humans looking for food because we have these barns filled with livestock. You know, it needs to be addressed as a whole, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there somebody else that would like to come forward? Come on up. And please begin with your name.
Hi, my name is Kevin Funk. I am a licensed trapper and I hunt and I do a heck of a pile of custom skinning. I've never seen coyotes come in so big a population before. And when they're saying about having a coyote kill and that thing, these coyotes are getting so big that they're actually taking the whole carcass into the bush and that. How are you supposed to go ahead and make a claim when the whole carcass is gone? So anyway, that's just key point. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there additional comments from our members of the public that are here this evening? Okay, I'll just put out a second call. Any further comments? And remembering, of course, that if you think of something later or you want to have a chance to kind of compile your thoughts, you're free to submit them by email, or you can phone the phone number that we provided earlier to add your comments to the pool so that the staff can take that away from May 30th onward and prepare the report. So it won't be too late if you're driving home and say, I wish I had said this. And final call, anybody else that would like to make a comment? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Well, then I'll declare the portion of our public comments closed for this then. And I'll just look to staff to say, I didn't hear a lot of questions, just some good commentary. So I'll just look to staff. Is there anything further that you wanted to add or? Okay, I'm seeing shaking heads. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Well, we very much appreciate all of this input and the time that people have taken to come and give us this dialogue. And certainly there was dialogue during the open house hour as well, which was very beneficial to us too. There's no difference in making a comment here at the lectern or having one just with a staff member or a council member during the preamble while we're doing our before our formal meeting. So that concludes our public comments and we've heard from staff. So at this point in time, Madam Clerk, I think the last thing is to adjourn, correct? Okay, so then I'll just look back to my county council colleagues and ask for a mover and a seconder that we adjourn at 7:38 p.m. Thank you. I see it moved by Councillor Hutchinson online and seconded by Councillor Eccles online. And any discussion on adjournment? Seeing none. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. This public meeting is adjourned. Thank you again, everyone.